Welcome to Inspiring Histories, where ancient secrets and biblical mysteries come to life. Have you ever wondered what really happened to the women who fell in love with fallen angels, beings who had turned their backs on heaven? They didn't just fall in love. They fell for those who had already fallen from grace. These weren't just romantic dreams or fleeting passions. This was love that defied the divine order, love that tore open the fabric of creation itself. But here's the part that will truly astound you. What those women did, how they chose love over loyalty to God, set off a chain of events that changed everything. What they experienced, the passion, the ecstasy, the rebellion, was unlike anything the world had ever known. And when their fallen angelic husbands betrayed heaven, those bold, reckless women were left to face the consequences alone. You've heard about the Nephilim, the giant children born from this forbidden love. You know they were wiped out in the flood that swallowed the world. But what happened to the women themselves? That's the real shock. Because when Archangel Michael stepped in, he didn't just deal with the fallen angels. He passed a terrifying sentence on the women, one that transformed their very souls. This story, however, is not widely known. It's been hidden, concealed within the ancient texts of the Book of Enoch, lost to most, but not to those who seek the truth. High above, in the peaceful and bright world of heaven, the fallen angels once stood as mighty warriors, servants of God, protectors of creation. Their mission was simple: worship, guard, and maintain the balance of the universe. Nothing was supposed to shake their loyalty. But then something unexpected happened. One day, as they looked down at the world below, they saw something that changed everything. Human women, full of life, laughter, and beauty. They had seen beauty before, but this was different. It was human, real, earthly. It wasn't just how they looked, it was the way they moved, the way they smiled, the way they loved. These women didn't glow with a holy light. Instead, they had a kind of energy that fascinated the fallen angels, a simple human charm that felt both strange and exciting. At first, it was just curiosity, a passing thought. But curiosity turned into longing, and longing soon became a desire they couldn't control. The fallen angels found themselves coming back to the same places in the sky, watching, waiting. The more they watched, the more they felt something new, a need they couldn't explain. It wasn't just attraction, it felt deeper, like they were meant to be part of this world. Every day, their heavenly light seemed to fade just a little, replaced by feelings they didn't understand. What would it be like to walk among humans? To feel love as they do? To touch? To belong? To share a life with someone? The questions grew stronger, drowning out the songs of heaven. Their sense of duty faded, replaced by a deep ache. They knew what it meant to fall, to leave their place in heaven. But the chance to feel love made the risk seem worth it. And then, one by one, they made a choice: to leave heaven, to come down to earth, to chase a love that wasn't meant for them. When they arrived, they didn't just fit in, they stood out. Their presence was mesmerizing, and the women who saw them couldn't look away. These weren't just ordinary men. The fallen angels moved gracefully, spoke with smooth, calming voices, and their eyes seemed to hold stories of ages past. When they entered a village, people stopped what they were doing, captivated by their unreal beauty. The women didn't know why, but they felt special, chosen. It was like the air changed when the fallen angels were around. like the world itself was waiting. But love that crosses heavenly rules has a price. The angels had given up everything, and the women, unaware of what was coming, were about to face consequences they never imagined. Because back in heaven, the news had already spread. And when Michael found out, he knew a boundary had been crossed, one that could never be undone. What happened next will truly amaze you. The fallen angels didn't just settle quietly on earth. They made themselves known, boldly and without fear. Imagine this: majestic beings who once stood in the presence of God, now walking among humans, blending into a world they were never meant to touch. The people were stunned. They had never seen anything like it. The fallen angels didn't just take any women. They chose the most beautiful, the ones whose presence lit up their world. These women felt honored, almost as if destiny itself had selected them. But there was something strange, something no one was prepared for. The more time the women spent with the fallen angels, the more they changed too. It's almost as if that heavenly glow rubbed off on them, making them seem different, more alluring, more mysterious. And then the unthinkable happened. The unions between the fallen angels and human women gave birth to something the world had never seen before. Giants. Not just tall people. Giants with incredible power, fierce strength, and a hunger that could never be satisfied. The Nephilim. Creatures that looked human but had the strength to move mountains. They were unstoppable, wild, and uncontrollable. And the truth is, most people today have no idea just how terrifying they were. The stories of their violence, their hunger, and their cruelty were enough to strike fear into entire cities. When one of these giants appeared, it wasn't just fear, it was sheer panic. Villages tried to hide, but the ground would shake with each step of a Nephilim. People knew there was no escaping them. But here's the part that will really shock you. It wasn't just the humans who feared them. Even the fallen angels themselves couldn't control their own offspring. What they thought would be a blessing, children who would inherit their strength, became their worst nightmare. The giants didn't follow any rules, didn't respect any boundaries. They took whatever they wanted. The world had never seen anything like it. And the angels realized too late. They had created monsters. But this is just the beginning. Because when Michael saw the chaos these unions caused, he knew something drastic had to be done. And what he decided next will change everything you thought you knew about divine justice. In the book of Enoch, it's written that the fallen angels begged for mercy. They pleaded with heaven, asking for forgiveness, for a way to undo what they had done. But their pleas went unanswered. God remained silent. It was too late. Their sin had taken root, and the consequences were spreading like wildfire. Michael knew that if he didn't act, the entire world would be consumed by this chaos. The giants grew bolder with each passing day. Cities were abandoned, fields left untended, as people fled from the monstrous beings. And as the Nephilim grew, so did their hunger for power, for control, for more. They were unstoppable. That's when Michael gathered the archangels. It was time to restore order. But here's where it gets even more shocking. The angels didn't just plan to destroy the Nephilim. They knew that simply fighting these giants wouldn't be enough. They needed something greater, a divine intervention that would erase the sin itself. That's when the decision was made, a flood that would cover the earth and wash away every trace of this unholy union. The book of Enoch reveals that Michael and the archangels didn't just plan it. They were the ones who called for it. They wanted to cleanse the earth, to start over, to rid the world of the corruption that had taken root. This wasn't just a punishment. It was a reset. But here's the detail that will leave you speechless. The fallen angels didn't know it was coming. They were caught off guard, watching in horror as the rains began to fall. The Nephilim, too, those once powerful giants, found themselves helpless as the water rose higher and higher. For the first time, the mighty were brought low. Nature itself turned against them, and there was nowhere to run. And as the world drowned, the fallen angels could only watch, chained, powerless, unable to save the very offspring they had once celebrated. What Michael did next, however, would change the fate of the women who loved these angels forever. This is the part that most people have never heard. You see, while the flood wiped out the giants, the women who had loved the fallen angels, those who dared to give themselves to divine beings, were left behind. They had no idea that the love they thought would elevate them had instead sealed their fate. And what happened to them afterward will truly shock you. According to the Book of Enoch, these women weren't just ignored, they were cursed. Michael, acting under divine command, decreed that they would never find peace. Their souls would be transformed into sirens, mysterious, alluring creatures who lured men to their doom. It wasn't just a punishment, it was a transformation. They became symbols of beauty turned deadly. And even today, the legend of the sirens lives on, haunting sailors, drawing them to their end with sweet, hypnotic songs. But here's the part that will really surprise you. Not all the women accepted their fate. One of them, named Nama, refused to bow down. She was proud, unbroken, and still captivated by the memory of her fallen lover. She wandered the earth, refusing to admit she had done anything wrong. Her defiance made her different. She didn't just become a siren, she became a queen among them, leading those cursed women into the shadows, whispering that their love was worth every consequence. Nama's name would echo through time, her presence haunting the edges of human stories, always refusing to fade away. But why would God allow such a fate? Why turn the women into monsters rather than simply letting them perish? The Book of Enoch hints at something deeper, a symbolic warning. It wasn't just about punishing the women. It was a reminder that crossing the boundaries between heaven and earth would always leave a scar. And even after the flood washed away the physical evidence of the Nephilim, the sirens remained as a lasting echo of that forbidden union. The other angels who remained loyal to God watched this transformation with a sense of dread. They had seen Michael's judgment before, swift, righteous, and final. But this time, something was different. The sirens weren't just a warning to humanity. They were a reminder to the angels themselves, never to cross that line again. What really makes this story even more unsettling, while the sirens wandered the earth, cursed to draw men to their doom, their fallen angel husbands remained imprisoned, bound in chains, beneath the mountains and buried in darkness. But here's the detail that will truly shock you. They could still feel the pain of their wives. According to the Book of Enoch, the fallen angels didn't just lose their freedom. They were cursed with the knowledge that their actions had brought this torment upon the women they once loved. And that feeling, knowing they had caused their beloved to become monsters, was a torment beyond anything they had ever faced. Imagine the agony, being trapped for eternity, not just in chains, but in guilt. unable to move, unable to help, just feeling the echo of the women's suffering. This wasn't just punishment. It was a reminder, a constant, unending reminder that love born from rebellion never ends well. Michael didn't just leave the fallen angels to rot. He stood watch, guarding the prisons, ensuring they remained sealed. In the book of Enoch, it's written that Michael wasn't just a warrior. He was a warden, making sure that those who crossed the line between heaven and earth would never be allowed to roam free again. Some say that Michael still guards these places to this day, watching over the chains, making sure the fallen angels never escape. Because what they did wasn't just a mistake. It was the choice that tore the balance between heaven and earth. As the ages passed, the world moved on, but the echoes of that forbidden love never truly faded. The sirens still sang their mournful songs, wandering the edges of reality, forever cursed to draw in those who dared to listen. And the fallen angels? They remained in their dark, lonely prisons, silent, regretful, haunted by memories of love that shattered heaven's order. But here's the most haunting truth of all. Love born from rebellion doesn't just vanish. It lingers, like a shadow in the soul, a reminder that crossing divine lines can change the course of history. The book of Enoch tells us that these stories weren't just forgotten. They were hidden, buried deep, to keep humanity from knowing how dangerously close heaven and earth once came to merging. And yet sometimes, in the quietest moments, you can almost hear it, the distant cry of a siren, the whisper of regret, and the silent prayers of angels who dared to love. It's a story that time could not erase, a warning wrapped in legend, a love that became a curse, and it's a secret that still haunts the world today.